daily, not in a day. Okay, little by little, small steps, and lo behold, you would have developed those qualities. But in one day, if you're going to be a leader, it may not happen. So it says, you probably are starting to see it takes work to live out the leadership qualities being taught in this program. One of the most important leadership laws that John C. Maxwell teaches is called the law of process, which says leadership develops daily, not in a day. All of us need to grow into better leaders, but growth is not an event, it's a process. Growth does not happen instantaneously or all at once, any more than climbing a mountain happens by taking a single step. Both take a lot of time, energy, and hard work, but the rewards are worth it. And good leaders never stop trying to grow, even when they are old. One of the most powerful words is potential. It is based on possibilities for success, fulfillment, and greatness. Potential also implies the need for growth. Think of someone great right now. That person was not born great. They grew into a great person over time. If you were to ask them how they did it, they would probably tell you it took a lot of work. Growth requires focus, intentionality, and a sense of purpose. Sometimes growth can be painful. You may find yourself needing to give things up so you can keep growing better. Most importantly, growth requires that you be teachable. You have to be willing to learn. Good leaders are able to acknowledge their own weaknesses, failures, and shortcomings, but they are also determined to learn from them to grow into better leaders. So you have this key question. Okay, two key questions. How do leaders grow in their leadership? And what does growth require? Okay, so as we proceed with the lesson, think whether you are able to complete that first page that is there in your in your booklet. Okay, meantime, let me just tell you what was done just now. It says, what is the connection between potential and growth? It says we all want to grow and develop ourselves. To have a satisfying life, personal growth and development process is essential. So in this process, personal growth and development process, in this process, if you're able to discover your potential too, then the advantages are immense. Sometimes, you know, what happens is we are able to recognize it ourselves, the potential that we have within ourselves. Sometimes, and in fact, most of the times, it is an outside factor. Okay, maybe your friend, maybe your teacher, maybe your well-wisher, maybe your parent, uncle, aunt, somebody, you know, is able to catch on that potential that you have. And if they are able to identify it for you, and if you work on it, okay, then the results would be phenomenal. So it says some advantages are, you will find the meaning and purpose in yourself that was absent before. Some of us just, you know, go through life, you know, breeze through, and so much of, you know, talents and inherent things we may have had within us just goes undiscovered. Okay, always remember that talent story, that parable from the Bible. Life goals now will become possible. You can use this potential not only to benefit yourself, but to benefit others too. And you will probably discover new skills and talents, not only the ones that the others identified for you, and not only the ones that you yourself had identified, but something new while you were making use of the ones which others had told you. So old relations will be strengthened and new ones will be easily formed. And what will be the end result? all of this will give a boost to your self-image and confidence. Okay, so what was this first page asking you? It was asking you, growth is the steady dash of dash, who and what you dash to be. Okay, so that's your, should be your answer. How do leaders grow in their leadership? And then the second one, if you are able to answer that, true growth requires dash dash and a sense of dash. That will answer your second question. What does growth require? Okay, so let's look at this. It says, how do leaders grow in their leadership? So growth is a steady process of becoming who and what you aim to be. Okay, and then the second question, what does growth require? Growth requires focus, intentionality, and a sense of purpose. Okay, now the next topic says, the first question there, it says, ask 3 people who you know well. What are my strengths? What do you think I can do or become if I work hard? Does anyone already asked? Not related to the lesson, but just in general, while you were talking, can you tell me what's my positive point? What is my strength? Has anyone asked anyone like that and got an answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what did that person tell you?
Well, I asked my Amma and Appa, so they told me about my strengths and my talents and what I could do.
Okay.
To grow
yeah.
it.
And
so they told me to.
Now, just tell one. If you don't mind sharing with us.
Sure, ma'am. They told me to focus on music a lot.
Okay. Okay. So musically talented.
Yes, ma'am.
So therefore, focus on that. Anyone else wants to share?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me.
Ma'am, when I had asked my friends, ma'am.
What did they say your strength is?
My strength, they said that my strength is being happy.
Being happy. Okay. That's a nice strength to have. Now ask yourself, what is God leading me to do or become? What must I do to achieve this? Okay, that's a question you need to ask yourself, and do ask yourself, and the answer you must write it down here. Now coming to the next section, it says ways I want to grow as a leader. Ways I want to grow as a leader and why I want to grow in this way. I have shortlisted a few pointers. Maybe you could have your own way of looking at it. So ways I want to grow as a leader. One I thought was look to others and learn from them. Why? Why should I look to others and learn from them? The ones who can be examples for me, good examples for me. Why do I want to grow this way? To better myself. Then another way I would want to grow as a leader would be to keep evolving. Okay, there was this thing. You have changed so much. Some people, when they meet you after a long time, you've changed so much. So you take it positively, and you think, okay, I have evolved. It's not like I have become a bad person from what I was yesterday, but then I have evolved. I have become a better person. So therefore, they are seeing that change in me. Why I want to grow this way? Because change is constant. Change is constant. Okay. And then another reason, as a leader, why I want to grow as a leader? Because then I want to get everybody on board, to get everyone on the same page. Because as a leader, I have some purpose, I have some vision, I have some goals to achieve. And if I can get my team together, and if I am able to clearly spell out, the purpose, the vision, then there is unity among us to achieve that purpose. Okay, so something in this manner is the way we want you to fill these columns. Ways I want to grow as a leader and why I want to grow in this way. Ask yourself these questions and also the answers. Okay, do that as your homework. And then you put your name here. I, so and so. I, Elizabeth Abraham, believe God can do great things through me. So you put your name there and have that faith that God can do great things through me. Okay, so there is this Bible passage. It says, while this, may I request Melissa to please read this out? And Melissa, while you unmute, and children, when you're listening to this passage, you should mark or underline ways Moses feels unprepared, okay, to do the job God has called him to do. And also you have to circle how God offers to help Moses. Now, this is one of the most amazing stories about growth in the Bible through a stuttering shepherd named Moses, who turned out to be an incredible leader. Okay, so pay attention to what Melissa is reading, okay, and then see if you can answer at the end of this. That is, how did Moses feel unprepared to do the job God had called him to do, and also how God offers to help Moses. Melissa, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, start. It
In
says
time,
Moses, okay, sorry.
Moses, tongue-tied leader. In time, Joseph and all of his brothers died. Their descendants, the Israelites, had many children and grandchildren. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph. He saw how the Israelites outnumbered his people and made a plan to keep them from growing even more. So, the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities for the king. Moses, an Israelite, was tending his father in law's flock near Sinai, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Moses stared in amazement. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. "This is amazing," Moses said to himself. "Why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it." As Moses drew closer, God called to him from the middle of the bush, "Moses, Moses, here I am." Moses replied, "Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground." When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid. The Lord told Moses, "The cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people, Israel, out of Egypt." Moses protested to God, "Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt?" God answered, "I will be with you." Moses pleaded, "O Lord, I am not very good with words. I never have been, and I am not now, even though you have spoken to me. I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled." The Lord asked Moses, "I will be with you as you speak. I will instruct you in what to say." With God's help, Moses spoke boldly to Pharaoh and ordered him to let the Israelites go free. Pharaoh would not listen, so God sent plagues on the Egyptians, demonstrating his power over them. Then, when Pharaoh finally let the the Israelites go, he changed his mind and commanded his armies to bring the Israelites back into slavery. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness?" But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Lord Himself will fight for you." God gave God gave Moses a plan. He was to raise his hand over the water, and God would do the rest. Moses raised his hand over the sea, and the Lord opened up a path through the water with a strong east wind. The wind blew all that night, turning the seabed into dry land. So the people of Israel walked through the middle of the sea on dry ground with walls of water on each side. Then the Egyptians, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and charioteers, chased them into the middle of the sea. When all the Israelites had reached the other side, God allowed the walls of the water to rush back in, and all of the Egyptians were swept away into the sea. When the people of Israel saw the mighty power of the Lord had unleashed against the Egyptians, they were filled with awe before him. They put their faith in the Lord and in his servant Moses.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Melissa, so much. So were you able to underline or mark the way Moses felt unprepared to do the job God had called him to do? Anyone? What does he say?
Ma'am, he says, "Who am I to appear before Pharaoh?"
Okay. He sees himself as not up to mark to appear before the Pharaoh. Anybody else?
He says that he cannot speak, he gets tongue tied.
Yeah, he gets tongue-tied. He cannot speak. He's got a stammering issue. He'll stutter. Okay, so he's not the best of the people to be sent. Okay, then how does God offer to help Moses? What does God say?
"I will be with you."
I will be with you. Okay, I just tell you from my experience, I am in a similar situation. Okay, Moses, or even more weak than Moses. Okay, so we have this thing about taking morning assembly, right? You've seen, I mean, this is not happening right now, but then morning assemblies, right? And I have absolutely no idea how to go. And then I'm called by the principal, and the principal says, "You have to." So I, give all kinds of excuses. I don't have anybody who is a pastor or a priest in my family, sir. I don't have any kind of, thing to fall back on, and this, that, and all. And the principal says, "Don't worry, Mrs. Abraham. The Holy Spirit will guide you." And I'm telling you, children, from experience, okay, right now too, taking this session with you people, the Holy Spirit will guide us. Okay, so when God says to Moses, "I'll be there," you've seen it for yourself. When Melissa read the conclusion, you've seen, you heard the story before, you read about this before, and look at the way we are talking about Moses today. Okay, after so many years, one of the greatest leaders of Israel. Okay, so that's how God will raise you and exalt you. So here it says, Moses was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, watching sheep, when all of a sudden something out of the ordinary happened. Even though the mysteriously burning bush was scary and unexpected, Moses overcame his fear and went to investigate. Exodus 3:4 says, when the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush, "Moses, Moses." "Here I am," Moses replied. God's voice scared Moses at first, but Moses overcame his fear and obeyed by stepping closer so that he could hear what God wanted to tell him. God asked Moses, a mere shepherd, to do something huge. He was told to go to Pharaoh and lead the Israelites out of captivity and into freedom. Moses doubted himself because he was just a shepherd and not good with words. But God reminded Moses that he would be successful because of God's power, not because of who Moses was or what he was or wasn't good at. Okay, so look at this question, reflection questions. How does Moses see himself differently than God sees him? How is Moses looking? I mean, how is Moses viewing himself? Just now I got the answers, right? If someone else can say the same thing.
As a shepherd.
He sees himself as, okay, he's a mere shepherd only. So mere shepherd means almost like a nobody. Okay, so least of all, to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. The least capable person to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. So it says, how does God see him? How does God see him?
God sees him as an able leader.
God sees that he's got that potential in him. Okay, and of course, God is going to be there standing beside him and helping him. So God believes, I mean, Moses has to believe that with God's help, he will be able to do what God is asking of him. Second one, if God sent you to speak to the leader of your country, like he asked Moses to do, what things would you doubt about yourself? Anybody? Or because we live in a democratic country and we know we've seen our prime minister so many times, and so would you doubt yourself? Or would you feel confident about going and meeting him?
Definitely doubt.
You'll doubt? Why?
Because you're scared, like if you do something even minutely stupid, it will be broadcasted to the entire country.
Okay, that way the media will scare you. Suppose they give you the assurance, or we give you the assurance that there won't be any media. Would you still doubt yourself? Then it's okay.
Still, it's the prime minister. Like,
Okay. We've had instances where, the students, especially senior students, they've said, don't send me, you can send me to the principal, but don't send me to that teacher. Have you heard of that? Have you come across a situation like that? I'd rather go explain myself to the principal or to the vice principal, but please don't send me to that teacher.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? Okay. So this is Pharaoh. He's not happy with these people. Okay, when it is your own people, if it had been an Egyptian, okay, going and meeting the Pharaoh, the relation would have been different. But this is an Israelite, okay, captive, and he's going to ask Pharaoh to let my people go. So if it is a situation like that, okay, then it is going to be very, very difficult on your own strength. Third one, what was God's response to Moses complaining that he couldn't do what God asked him to do? What did God say?
I will be there with you.
He says,
I will be with you.
He says, I will be with you. I will be with you as you speak. I will instruct you in what to say. Okay, so it's almost like, don't worry, just go ahead and do what I am telling you to do. I'll take care of everything. Fourth one, what do you feel God has asked you to do that is too hard for you or requires a skill you don't possess? Would you take up that challenge?
Think
Would
twice
you?
about it.
You will think twice about it, even though God is personally asking you, and God is giving you this assurance, still you will doubt? We are all the time, in God's presence, and the kind of school we are studying in, okay? Again and again, it's reiterated that God is real. So I think each one of us, like Moses, okay, we should just cling on to, if God is speaking to us and if God is asking you to do something, even if it is too hard for you and requires a skill that you don't possess, I think we must have that quantum of faith that if God has told me to do it, and if God is telling me that He will be there guiding me, I think you should take it up. Okay? You will have your apprehensions, you will have your, question marks, but yet God is asking me to do it. God will strengthen me, and I shall do it. What can you learn about the leaders God chooses and how He equips them to lead from the story of Moses? Okay, so it's like if God calls you, He equips you also. And then remember, if God is for me, if God is for me,
Who can stand against me?
yes, who can be against me? Who can stand against me? So have that confidence. Okay, so it says, after the Pharaoh let the Israelites go, he changed his mind and wanted all of his free laborers back. But God had another outrageous plan for Moses, one that would show that it was God's power at work and not Moses or any other man's. We can learn from the story of Moses that God will choose his leaders from ordinary people. He will ask us to do big things, things that might even scare us at first or even seem impossible. But it is His power that accomplishes these things. Our job is to be faithful in what we are supposed to be doing every day until God gives us a special calling. Then we, like Moses, must be brave enough to step forward and listen, see ourselves as God sees us, and obey. Over time, Moses grew from a stuttering and stammering shepherd into the great prophet who led Israel out of captivity in Egypt. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. When we allow God to do His work in us, starting with our small daily tasks, God will be faithful to grow us into great leaders. Okay, so coming to the memory verse, okay, which is there right at the bottom. It says, only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction is wise. Can you look at this question? Who are some people you can learn from? List 3 people, okay, that you can learn from, and pray about asking one of them to be your mentor. Then look at the second question. What are the 2 mistakes you have made recently? What can you learn from them? They always say, right, learn from your mistakes. Okay, and a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. History is a great teacher. Why? Because you see what those people did in the past and you make sure you don't do the same thing. Otherwise, you will learn through your own personal experience. Okay, so how can you improve in the future? So these are things to think about. Okay, and it says part of growth is not only learning from past mistakes, but also making things right. If there is anyone you need to apologize to, for a mistake you have made or any wrongs you need to make right. Commit to doing it today or as soon as possible. Someone you have wronged, someone you were rude with, harsh with, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, okay? Said things you shouldn't have said in your anger, your friend, teacher, okay? It might feel impossible, but remember, God is with you. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? Levels of leadership, to go over it again. That's the first level. That is the level that you start with, okay, along with others. Then you move on to level 2. So real leadership growth begins at this level. Here you earn the ability to influence others by building a relationship with them. So get into being friends, okay? Win their trust. Once you have gained their trust over a period of time, that's a third level, production, you can begin to help them being successful and productive as part of the team. You want every member to contribute, right? So you work at it. And the fourth level is people development. Excellent leaders will now considering moving to this level where they invest in others, helping them to become better leaders. Isn't that what your school is doing? Okay. Monday, 12:45, almost an hour's time, taking time out, getting you together, okay, investing all these things and time in you. Why? So that you will become better leaders, each one of you. And finally, the pinnacle happens, that level happens when leaders spend their lifetime serving, leading, and investing in others. Go over this again and again, okay? And coming back to this, it says, look at this. Tell yourself again and again throughout this week, I am a good leader when I work on overcoming my weaknesses. And of course, the memory verse, Proverbs 15, verse 5. It says, only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction is wise. Okay, so for your next class, remember the answer to your key questions. Okay, then you should be able to recite your memory verse. And then this observations, what are some people you can learn from? Do that work. And then also, if you want to share, or this could be your personal thing, 2 mistakes you have made recently, what can you learn from them? How can you improve? And I would also want you to fill this, okay? Find out from people what your strengths are, write that down, and then ask yourself this question and write the answer. This is very important. And again, look at it once you've written. Ways I want to grow as a leader and why I want to grow in this way. Okay? So I would like to close in prayer. And this is a prayer for you people to repeat after me. Okay? All the prefects, you don't have to unmute, but then sitting in your places, repeat after me. Okay? So it says, Lord, I am so far from being perfect. I have many flaws and I make mistakes every day. I know you have a plan for my life and you are generous to give me wisdom to know how I can grow into the kind of person you want me to be. Help me to be more intentional about growing myself even if it means I have to give things up, take risks, and experience failure along the way. I know you care for me, and you are always there to help me when I feel weak. Thank you, God. Amen. Okay? So, I have come to the end of my growth talk, and may I hand over to Sir or Mrs. Manoj.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abraham, for that
Welcome,
wonderful
ma'am.
session on growth. And since we have a couple of minutes, do any of the students want to ask a question or discuss anything related to growth? You're most welcome to turn on your videos and speak. Senior students, you'll want to say anything or ask a question? The most important thing about growth, boys and girls, is don't hesitate to take that first step towards growing. As Mrs. Abraham said, change is the only constant, right? And if we refuse to change, then we become obsolete, we become defunct, we stagnate, and we'll suffocate mentally. So don't hesitate to take that first step. It's perfectly okay to make mistakes, but don't repeat your mistakes. It's very important for you to note down what your mistakes are. And growth happens only when you take corrective action when you make a mistake. Okay? All of us make mistakes. That's why, that famous poster, pencils have erasers. All of us make mistakes, but we should endeavor not to repeat our mistakes. So whenever you make a mistake, if you're growing academically or in, emotionally or spiritually, and there's a slight drawback, note it down, find out what the reason was for it to happen, and then see how you can take remedial action. Only when you take corrective measures will you grow, boys and girls. Okay, I just pray that these sessions will help you to grow as leaders. And in the process of you growing as a leader, you should be able to pass on these great truths to your classmates and whoever you interact with as well. Anything else? Mrs. Roji, you'd like to add something?
Yeah, just wanted to know, is Usha Anthony, Sarah Anthony's
Yes, ma'am.
device? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm really sorry. I logged into Mama's phone.
No, that's okay, that's okay. I figured that out. Only Bridget and Sparsha had told me that they are unwell and they were absent through the classes also today. And Bridget joined in after I reminded her to, if possible, and she did join very late. Sneha and Joel, you joined very late, half an hour after. Okay, please be careful, children. Every week I send reminders, send the login ID again and again so that you're reminded of your session. Don't take these sessions lightly, and please be on time. Please log in on time. Be prepared for this week and start looking forward to it, because you are being taught the essential aspects of leadership, which is not going to kind of end here with our prefectship. but they are life lessons. They are very, life-changing virtues. If you embrace these virtues in your life, they will pay well, okay, in the long run. So please be careful about that, about your attendance. Neha and Joel were really very late. Okay, that's all, ma'am.
Oh. Boys and girls, don't forget to do your homework. Make a note of the questions, those reflection questions, because it helps you introspect. So make sure you complete all those details, because that's part of this learning process. Okay? So does anybody want to say anything else? Students, anything you want to add? It's good for you to identify, 3 people you can learn from, at least 2 people you can learn from in your home, okay? Then in school, compartmentalize, in society, in the world at large, so they become your role models. And see from those who are around you who can mentor you. It may be even teachers or relatives, but it's good to have a mentor, boys and girls. So if we are done, thank you once again, prefects, and thank you, teachers. We shall end this meeting.
Thank you, students. Thank you, Mrs. Roji and Mrs. Manoj.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs. Abraham. Thank you, Mrs. Manoj. Thanks a lot, prefects.